Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City of Henderson Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, April 26, 2022. And if you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Vowell?
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Here.
Commissioner Staton?
Here.
Mayor Austin?
Here. Is there anyone here today that has something to bring before the City Commission that is not on the agenda? Yeah, you're okay. Yeah. First on our agenda then is a proclamation for Arbor Day. There it is.
Arbor Day, whereas J. Sterling Morton in 1872 proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, Steve Austin, by virtue of the authority vested in him as mayor of the city of Henderson, Kentucky, does hereby proclaim Friday, April 29th, 2022, as Arbor Day in the city of Henderson, and urges all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and further urges all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations.
Thank you, Marie. I'm going to present this to Trace Stevens, our Parks and Recreation Director. And Trace, we've had several good news things about trees this year. We were a Tree City again, and then I think you have a tree committee now that is working on downtown trees, so you want to mention anything about that?
The first thing I want to mention is that our actual Arbor Day celebration is this Friday, 4 o'clock at Atkinson Park. We've got an October blaze maple planted for this year's Arbor Day tree. We've got it planted along the river walk there, sort of in the area between the skate park and the softball field in Atkinson Park. So it's in a prominent area that in years to come, many of the walkers will enjoy the shade as they walk underneath it. The tree committee, as the mayor mentioned, starting last year, took on the project of replacing the downtown trees. And if you look at a lot of the trees on Elm and Maple Streets, you can see that a lot of the overgrown, older linden trees have been replaced with red buds, Japanese maples, and some other brands along there as they were pushing up sidewalks. And a lot of those trees had just met their lifespan and had done what they were designed to do. So we've replaced them, and we'll be doing the same again this year, going down First, Water, and 3rd Street. And that should meet all of our downtown trees, should all be replaced. So we should have another 20 to 30 good years worth of trees to shade people as they shop, live, and walk and enjoy our downtown area. So this year, our Parks Department overall has probably replaced close to 50 trees, counting the downtown trees and the trees we placed in the park. We always try to make it a rule of thumb to replace 2 trees for every one we have to cut down. So we always try to bring back more than we take out.
Good. Thank you, Trace.
All right.
Appreciate it. Next on our agenda is a presentation by Dr. Wanda Figueroa with River Valley Behavioral Health, and she has some folks back there with her. And first of all, you want to just mention who you've got with you, Doctor?
Okay. I'm Dr. Wanda Figueroa, and I brought some of our team members. Mary Mary Kay Lamb. She's the Vice President of Community Services, and she's also the case management and also the Director of Children's Services. Brooke Arnold, she's the Director of our Regional Prevention Center. And Marsha Lowry, she's the Senior Director of Outpatient Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Okay, don't forget Jessica.
And my assistant and Director of Communication, Jessica Pierce.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, first, I have to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you some of the good news that we have for the Henderson community. For the last 20 years, River Valley Behavioral Health, as your regional mental health provider, has offered outpatient mental health and substance abuse services in a clinic in the Green Street. We're also, many people do not know that we are a housing provider. We run a HUD housing program, and for 20 individuals, they live in a single apartment, and we provide case management, outpatient mental health services, and all the support services they need in order to have a healthy life and a safe life for them and also for other community members. I'm happy to report that they have remained stable and received the support that they need. 2 years ago, River Valley took the initiative to seek federal funds to expand substance abuse and mental health services, and also targeting especially children and youth that have such a high need for services, and many times those resources are not available. 1 in 5 youth have a severe mental illness that need to be addressed, and many times the stigma or the lack of access due to coverage for healthcare or the lack of information or the lack of providers prevent them and their families to access services. So 2 years ago, we received a $4 million a grant that enabled us to become a federally community behavioral health clinic. And what is good about this for the Henderson community is that we are one of 2 organizations that provide 24/7 mental health mobile crisis. That, in addition to the crisis line that we have, offers services when people need it. So we work closely with law enforcement to help families that at times that's the first cry of help that they might have. So we support their efforts, and at the same time, we connect them with services immediately. We work with schools and other community organizations to achieve that. But today, I want to talk to you about 2 new services that are specific for the Henderson community. In response to the major crisis in youth mental health, we applied for a grant, and we secure funding for the establishment of a youth drop-in center. This youth drop-in center is $1.4 million over a 4-year period. And I'm mentioning this to you because sometimes there are so many great ideas in the community, and what is the feasibility? I'm not asking you for money, I reach you release, I'm not, but rather we're sharing with you what we are going to be able to offer. This program is based on the principle of a program, evidence-based program called TAILOR, Transition Youth Launching Realized Dreams. And it's a federally funded initiative that provides a safe place for youth after school, and also for youth that are not in school or are not in college ages from 16 to 25. And the goal is to help them access the support that they have, especially for youth that are at risk or have a mental health or substance abuse issues. This drop-in center is going to be in close proximity to schools, so we reduce a barrier of transportation. And the availability will be during peak hours after 3 o'clock, from 3 to 6. It will be fully staffed. Our staff will include a therapist, will include people that will provide them with career guidance. They'll get free snacks. We'll use a living room model. And this is an enhancement, it's no competition to the Boys and Girls Club. It's for those youth that might fall through the cracks if they don't have that individual attention that is tailored to their needs. So we're gonna be working with schools, with city college, with the college, community college, with the community college and faith-based organizations to attract and to let youth and families know that this service is available to them. And so there are only 9 other tailored drop-in centers in Kentucky. So Henderson is number 10. And so we're very proud of that being able to secure that for this community that we're so engaged in. And they will have access to all those protective factors from youth, from mentoring, counseling, what is needed, connections, activities, being able to be connected to individuals that become their champions. And there will be no cost to the youth, to the young person and to their families. The second new service that we have available, that we will have available for this community, is a recovery home for women. Last year, we opened a residential treatment for women and children and pregnant women, especially in Owensboro. And we realized that one of the biggest challenges after someone is engaged in treatment, the next big hurdle that they have to manage is housing, is childcare, is going back sometimes to the same environment that fostered their addiction and their situation. So they needed a place after treatment, a safe place for them to connect with others, to get a career guidance, to help them get a job, stabilization and all of that, and to be surrounded with people that are also in recovery. So this recovery house, will have a capacity for 14 individual beds, and they will be able to be in this program for over a year. Most insurance companies only pay for 30 days of treatment, and science does not support that. So through additional funding, we were able to extend treatment for over a year for those that needed it. And after that, then what happened when housing is a public health issue, and especially for moms. That is a vulnerable place and scary stage in their lives. So through our programming, our planning, we were able to secure funding again for this particular program, and we're very excited that we're going to be bringing this to Henderson. And the team that we have here with me will be the leaders and will be working with me and with others and other community members to ensure that each family, each person that comes to our program is successful.
Thank you. That's very good news.
So thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you.
Okay, I've got a question.
You have a
I missed
question?
the location. Do you already have location, or is that to come?
Yes, the location for the youth, a drop-in center was the old Glenner, facility is across the YMCA.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to mispronounce the name, there's a way some people mispronounce my last name. Fruity Park, Plaza.
Yes.
That's where we're gonna be located.
Okay.
All right. Good.
Thank you for all of your efforts, because what you're doing is needed and important, and we sure do appreciate it. Is there a way, you said you didn't come here to ask for money, but
Yes.
is there a way that the city and the city government can support your efforts even farther?
Oh, we welcome that.
I don't mean
we
just
welcome.
financially, but I mean.
Yes. This funding, sometimes they provide like seed funding, right, in order for you to establish the program and buy all these things, and then we're able, because we're a certified behavioral health provider, to apply for, to bill for certain services. but that doesn't pay for everything, and there are some enhancements, like I mentioned, insurance company that will pay you for 30 days, but anything over that. So in terms of the city, the kind of support that we need now is to leverage the relationships so people know where we are and the marketing of the program. And we would like to expand the recovery home, for example, and if you have a vacant building that we can build another facility, to be honest with you, those are kind of things that long-term planning and short-term that we can work together. We're very fortunate that we had a vacant facility here that used to be a HUD group home, and when the state moved towards closing any group homes for more community living, no more than 3 people in a house, then that was vacant for a while. And we were looking for ways in how we can repurpose and for that to be a resource for the community. So we were very fortunate that with this funding, we have the building and we have the location. But to expand that, we will have to come back here and see how we can get those resources available, and we certainly would love to do that.
Between with what you're doing and with what the Boys and Girls Club is doing, that means, if I heard the numbers, you said it was a $1.4 million
Yes.
facility? That means that in this community alone, over the last 2 years, we've had nearly $5 million invested in the mental health, safety, and enrichment of our youth.
Yes.
And I just think that's huge, and thank you so much for your efforts. We sure do appreciate that.
Dr. Wanda, sitting right back in the back there on the far side is our police chief,
Yes.
and we would like for you to
Yes.
have a visit with him sometime or other, because there may be, on the youth drop-off facility,
Yes.
there may be some things that could be worked together on that, so.
Yes, that relationship is so important.
Mhm.
And when I tell my colleagues from other states how we partnered with law enforcement and provide support for mental health services, they get jealous.
Mhm.
And our board members, we have the former chief of police from Henderson, and also we have chief of police and deputy sheriffs in our board, because that level of collaboration is extremely important. So I look forward to working with you.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Wanda? Thank you
Thank
so much, and thank
Thank
your
you.
staff
Thank
for,
you. Okay.
appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it.
And you don't have to stay, if you do, you're welcome to stay, but don't feel like you have to. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing and, on outside agency funding. And, so I'm gonna open that public hearing at this time. And then, I think we have, one presenter, I think, Captain, is that right?
Yes, sir.
If you wanna present on behalf of the Salvation Army?
Yes, so I'm Captain Benny. My wife and I were the current pastors here at the Salvation Army, and we are moving pretty soon. So, but we are very excited as well for what this community has and what it will continue to do for the Army. And so what we are writing to request is if there would be a possibility for the city to offer us a one-time grant of $15,000. As many of you know, with COVID, a lot of life happened very fastly. And so throughout the COVID pandemic, the Salvation Army, we continue to provide those essential services of feeding and clothes and utility assistance and rental assistance. But the biggest need that we also ran into was not enough funding to cover the purchase of food and to-go trays and things like that. So during the whole pandemic, from March of 2019 per se, up until now, we've served over 150,000 meals. And that's all in about an hour and a half time, 6 days a week, that we see the bulk of our community come through. And throughout the whole pandemic, although the schools were offering the food, the drop-off sites, a lot of our individuals couldn't get to those because they didn't have transportation or anything. And so the Salvation Army occurred those families coming in. Throughout the height of the pandemic, we would see anywhere from 325 to 450 people in an hour and a half getting to-go meals. And so as we're starting to get out of the COVID per se lifestyle, hopefully we stay out of that, we're starting to run into that problem again where our numbers are kicking up with schools about to let out, and the funding to purchase the food and to-go containers and just maintain a safe environment and a nutritious meal that they could come in and get, we need extra funding for that. We do receive some United Way funding, but when that funding is gone, then where does the funding come from with fundraisers and everything? And so we're just writing to see if there was a chance that the city would entertain a one-time generous donation of $15,000 to help us continue serving our neighbors through our feeding program, which occurs Monday through Saturday from 11 to 12:30 p.m.
I think one other thing, are you familiar with the reductions in the SNAP program for those people that were on the emergency SNAP cards?
Yeah, even with the emergency SNAP that people would receive, if you got a family of 5 or 6, the price of food goes very quickly. And so one thing that we have noticed and that we have transitioned to is a more family effective meal. So our daily meals consist of a meat, 2 sides, and a dessert. Just because, if we're honest, a lot of our children and even our adults that we service don't really get a healthy meal. And for me, if the Salvation Army can provide that at least one hot meal a day, then I'm going to bed at night knowing that we were able to help someone fill their bellies and it was a nutritious meal that they had, and it can carry them over to the next day.
And I think you, did you go to fiscal court this morning?
I did not. I have a meeting set up with Mr. Snyder. Is going to work on those details as well. We're also requesting $15,000 from them as
a matching thing.
A matching thing is a lump sum of $30,000 to continue our feeding program.
Well, I know as a restaurant owner, how much costs have gone up, especially disposables, so your costs would have to go on at least 20-25%, so I'm in favor of it.
I'd just like to say, I did not know that we had that many people that were coming to the Salvation Army until Monday I was out, and I happened to see all these people walking up Washington Street. I was wanting to know where they was going. I thought they was going to the Warm Center troop over there, but they wasn't. They were going in to eat. And they all knew exactly what time to go.
Yes, sir.
And when I seen that, you know, I go to a lot of places, a lot of different cities, and I didn't recognize the problem of hunger. You know, when you walk right around Henderson, you just don't, are they hungry or where are they going to eat at today? I didn't see that until that day. I seen what you guys are doing, and I'm totally in favor of it. And looking at prices of food right now, $30,000, and the people that I see, if they come up there 5 times a week or 6 times, that $30,000 will be gone before you know it, because everybody knows how high food is right now.
Yes, sir.
So I'm in favor of it.
Any other questions or comments?
My support.
Do we need to add that to the list we're about to go over and then have one motion, or do we need a separate motion
No,
for the Salvation Army request?
I hear concurrence. They did fill out a form that we've asked all outside agencies to complete. It is late, but I think coming before the commission today is appropriate. We will include it in our budget, and Mr. Gunter shaking his head yes, so I think we can proceed forward, and we'll discuss it at our budget work session.
Right, and you're welcome to tell Judge Snyder that the city unanimously approved it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you being here, and thanks for your work,
Yes.
and we're sorry to see you go, we really are.
Yeah.
You have done a great job, you and your wife and your partners out there, and but we wish you the best.
Well, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
continued support. Have a great day.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, anyone else want to speak on the outside agency funding?
I don't, is it appropriate now, or should we wait until for me to make a comment, or until the hearing's over?
I think you can probably go ahead.
Okay.
In the public hearing.
Just wanted to say, as you look down through the list, we had some budgetary concerns this year, because I think it is a goal of the commission to take a look at our property taxes later on this year for a possible decrease, and so that's going to affect how much we have to dole out. We were able to recommend something for everyone who asked for money. Some of the organizations are getting quite a bit less than what they had asked, but some of the organizations have also worked with city management to come up with a viable solution to get the other money that they're needing from other means and sources. So I feel like what we've recommended here is fair and representative and will go a long way to helping these organizations.
Appreciate the group that worked on this. Good job. Any other questions or comments, or anybody have anything to say as far as public agency funding? If not, we will close the public hearing, and the city manager and staff will move forward with what we have. Okay. And we have 3 sets of minutes on the consent agenda. Is there something else you want to put on that consent agenda, or?
Just want to make mention, under the city manager's report, Tom Williams with HWU is here, and what we would like to do is just give you an update on what our property will look like, when I say our property, which is the Pritchett Farm, what it will look like at the conclusion of the agreements with Pratt, the property that HWU has to have, and what's remaining. So Tom will do that at the city manager's report.
Okay, good. Okay, consent agenda, 3 items.
We have the minutes of the May 18th, 2021 called work session, the May 21st, 2021 called commission meeting, the May 25th, 2021 regular meeting, municipal order 31-22, municipal order awarding bid for interior, exterior painting of various city facilities to Robertson Services of Henderson, Kentucky, and municipal order 32-22, municipal order approving amendment number 1 to water and wastewater service agreement between the City of Henderson, Water and Sewer Commission of the City of Henderson doing business as Henderson Water Utility and Pratt Paper Kentucky LLC, and authorizing mayor to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement.
Is there any item that a commissioner would like to pull off of the consent agenda for further discussion? Being none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Next is a second reading, and it's a second reading on the ordinance amending the zoning for RVs and RV communities.
We have ordinance number 09-22, ordinance amending Appendix A zoning, an ordinance amending Article 2 definitions, Section 2.01 definitions, and Article 16R manufactured home district, Section 16.03 conditional uses of Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Henderson relating to recreational vehicles and recreational vehicle communities.
Is there a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
There's a second?
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. Next, we have a first reading of a closing of a public right-of-way along 8th Street, near Green Street.
Ordinance number 10-22, ordinance closing public right-of-way along 8th Street. An ordinance closing public right-of-way which is approximately 9.75 feet wide by 131 feet long alleyway located in the city of Henderson and running between 405 and 415 8th Street, and approximately 12 feet wide by 65 feet long alleyway running west to east along the north property line of 415 8th Street as part of the consolidation of properties.
Leslie, would you want to just mention right quick, just to give a description of that?
Okay, if you remember, years ago, there used to be a miniature golf course located on Green Street. And part of that development included a concrete paved parking lot that is currently on 8th Street. And the new owner of the property, in a redevelopment plan, came before the city requesting a right-of-way closure that currently exists in that concrete parking lot. So in exchange for closing the public alleyway, they have offered to create a new alleyway that is just to the east of that parking lot. And so at the time, we asked our sanitation department to look at it, to make sure that our sanitation trucks can safely make that turn into the new alleyway, and they gave their support. So that's basically what this closing is about.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Or second? Second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles, Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Next is first reading of an ordinance amending job classification, and it has to do with what the chief of police talked to us about recently, about the reclassifying the records technician to a crime analyst records technician. And I think everybody remembers that. And they go from a pay grade 10 to a pay grade 15.
Ordinance number 11-22, ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan and budgeted positions. Ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan by reclassifying the records technician position in the police department to crime analyst records technician and amending budgeted positions and job classifications of the 2021 through 2022 budget.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Motion and a second. Chief, you want to come up and tell them how you're going to benefit from this reclassification?
Yeah. First, I'd like to tell you all thanks for the support on this. I just left the office before I left. I went in and already given an assignment for what's going on. There's certain times and areas when certain crimes go on in town. We're trying to locate when and where that is. And that's going to be a big benefit. The other thing is our traffic reports. We're trying to do a lot with traffic enforcement. And at this point in time, we're looking, where's our accidents? What time are they? What can we do about it? But I just appreciate you all listening to what I had to say. I think this is going to help us tremendously to be smarter about how we patrol and be more wise with our manpower. We just had a town meeting, I guess, on data-driven policing last month and talked about a lot of this. But it all begins with someone getting that information and bringing it in. And we've never had that, and now we do, and I really appreciate it. It will certainly make us more effective.
I want to mention too, I think you're very fortunate to have the young lady that is going to be doing that move up within your staff, and she is really good at what she does, and I think she'll be a big benefit to you.
Yes, without doubt. The perfect person for the job. Our administrative staff up there is second to none.
Any questions for Chief? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Next we have, under bids and contracts, a municipal order awarding the purchase of stop-loss insurance. And I think, Benji Mars is on Zoom with us, and Connie, you want to come up to the podium too? Okay, there's Benji. Hi, Benji, welcome.
Oh, good afternoon.
Municipal order number 33-22, municipal order awarding contract for renewal of City of Henderson stop-loss coverage reinsurance.
Okay. I'm going to let Benji and Connie explain this to us, and then we will move on to get a motion.
I'm going to basically turn it over to Benji. The summary was pretty straightforward in our memo, and he is our expert, and gladly let him lead this conversation.
Okay. All yours, Benji.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to be brief, but stop and pause and certainly answer any questions that you have. The stop loss is probably the most important component of the back end of your health insurance. It's what protects the city from grave financial risk of the high cost of high claims. So this is the amount that we insure every individual covered by your health plan. And the city is protected on any amounts above the specific stop loss. It is a highly inflationary cost component in that the high cost of high claims is certainly what's driving the high cost of healthcare, but those claims keep getting bigger and bigger each year. So it's a very important subcomponent of your cost, something that we get a very tight timeline to turn around. The longer we take to make decisions, then the more data that's requested from the carriers to what they call lock down or firm up a rate. And when they offer us a rate, it is only for a brief period of time before that opens back up and we have to go through a process again. So we do work with a strategic partner through UBA called SBR Resources that gives us access to a lot of different markets. Different reinsurance markets favor different industries. We've got some that are very focused on construction. We've got some that are focused in education, some that are focused in just different markets. But SBR took to bid 11 other vendors when we started this process about 45 days or so ago. And we are released preliminary rates, which is a pretty good indicator of where your rates will be up until the final data set is provided, and then everyone firms up their rates, which was done last week. And then we are given until the end of this week to sign off on that rate, accepting either Sun Life or another vendor. Otherwise, they will request an updated data set, which could expose you to more claims, higher or less premium. So at this point, we do have a proposal, a renewal proposal, actually, from your existing carrier, Sun Life, which exceeded our expectations. Our budget was about 15%, which is what we were expecting on your reinsurance renewal increase. That's about an inflationary trend factor for those high cost claims. Somewhere 15 to 18% is what we see as just general inflation in that marketplace. The preliminary rate came back at 8.5% increase, so exceeded our expectations based on your all's claims experience. And then, and based on what we see in the marketplace, we also had some competitive preliminary quotes. Then about 2 weeks ago, when we provided the firm, the last data request to them, Sun Life actually firmed up their proposal at a 3.5% increase over your current existing rates. And then the other 11 vendors that were in the bid process, none of them were able to either match the contractual provisions of Sun Life or the rates. So I think that Sun Life ended up shaping up to be a very highly competitive proposal. But part of that, within your all's reinsurance contract, about 3-4 years ago, we actually negotiated in what's called a return of premium provision, which means that if your loss ratio is running really well, meaning you're paying far more premium than they're paying you back in claims, which is a very good problem to have paid too much premium, means your high claimants are running well, then they'll return a portion of that premium. If your loss ratio remains the same as it is today through the end of June, which is when your contract actually renews July 1, you all stand to receive about $106,000 back of your paid premium if claims don't change. That could change in an instant, could change the last day of the contract. But as of right now, that's a substantial consideration as well. But if you change vendors, that provision goes away and you forfeit any funds you might be due back. It is a very advantageous feature to have in your contract, but at the same time, it does make you think twice about the competitiveness of the other vendors. But at this point, we don't have another vendor that is as competitive as Sun Life. Within the Sun Life contract, matching up the existing terms as you have today, we are putting two options for your consideration. One is to renew as is at a 3.5% increase, which is approximately $24,000 increase in premium annualized. We're also considering increasing your specific deductible, which is the risk you take per person, from $175,000 up to $200,000. And in doing so, your premiums actually reduce by $84,000 annually. or excuse me, $60,000 annually, which is an $84,000 gap between your renewal and what that increased deductible would be. So another way to think about that is 84,000. If we had 3 individuals bridge that gap, then it's about a break even. If we have a 4th, that's when you would have been better off at the $175,000 deductible. We can run and talk about any sort of scenario you'd like and what's the propensity of that risk actually happening. But with our SBR partner and actually internally as well, we have the ability to run Monte Carlo simulations of your all's data, and they can run it up to 1 million different times. And just having every scenario and all 3 options weigh out pretty similarly in terms of would your claims reimbursement exceed your premium. So the risk is pretty similar, but just as an advisory firm, if your risk tolerance is such to move to the 200,000, we're always an advocate of saving that fixed cost, that known premium, if that's a tolerable risk. And we've had some discussion around that with Connie, with Buzzy, with Robert, and they may have some feedback on that as well. But those would be the 2 options we would consider and recommend is that, first of all, that you renew with Sun Life, but then that there's 2 options to consider: keeping your deductible where it is today, or increasing it by $25,000 and saving the fixed cost premium.
Yeah, as I read this, Benji, I think the recommendation is to take the Sun Life coverage with option 2.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The municipal order that is before you has the increase of the deductible from 175 to 200.
Okay.
How often do we hit that deductible?
It's any given year, it's going to be anywhere from 1-2 times to 3-4 times. There's not going to be a consistent number, but looking backwards, you've got 1 or 2 claims in recent time that would have breached that amount. So it's less than 5, but generally you're going to have 1 or 2 every year that hit it. It's just a matter of where you end up on that 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Have we ever had 5 hit? Given year?
That's probably a Connie question. From my experience, I don't recall 5.
I don't think we've had 5, definitely since we've been with them, several years ago. We seem to have had a really bad year, but that's been a number of years ago. I mean, as far as.
So basically 4 hit, we're losing 25,000, but we're saving 60, so still coming out 35,000 ahead.
Okay, we'll ask for a motion to approve, and then we'll have additional questions and comments. Is there a motion to approve the recommended option for stop loss coverage? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So more questions for,
Yeah, I got, Connie, in the last 3 years, how many have we had go over the $200 deductible?
The last 2 years, and Benji, if you have a better memory on me, I can think of 4, like 2 in 1 year, 2 in the previous year. I can't remember if there was a 5th one or not in the last 2 years. I don't recall from memory prior to that. I'd have to go look through some records.
Yeah, I'm digging through some reports now, and we analyze just. You have to forgive my memory a bit. We analyze data set on rolling 12. No, what becomes most important is what happens between July 1 and the end of June, because that's your actual contractual term. But we're actually oftentimes analyzing data at this period of time where we might be looking at April through the end of March, or rolling 12 periods of times. That's how the underwriters often assess, is not what actually happened within your data, but what would have in this renewal period. So it's a little confusing, but I think Connie's right. I think 4 seems.
I think it was 2 1 year and either 2 or 3 the year before.
So are these 1-year contracts?
Yes.
1 year.
Okay.
Also mentioned too that we also have, and this will come up at a different date, but we also have a transplant contract. That's a separate policy that covers transplant situations. And we've had people that have hit that as well. So without that transplant policy, those folks would have been on this, and we would have had more. So you've got a significant part of your risk for these type large claimants carved out under a separate policy. That's a transplant.
Okay, any other
And
questions?
by you saying that, I knew we did have that. I probably won't be in favor of going to the 200,000. I think it'd be better for the employees at the 175 for them. That's just.
Point.
But
That
that's
doesn't,
not affecting, that's not
that
affecting
doesn't
them.
affect the employee at all.
No, it just
Okay,
affects
I'm
us.
talking about I'm talking about they get sick, they hit that.
That, it still
It doesn't
doesn't
affect
affect,
them?
it doesn't affect their pocketbook at all.
Okay,
It's just gonna cost us
okay,
25,000 if we
more,
hit,
only in 60.
if we hit 4 people.
And ultimately, I made this decision, and I talked to Robert. We looked at our past history, we look in our future to see, as Benji described, and ultimately, I said, we'll take the risk, to see what happens. I don't think it, the worst case with past history, the worst we could be out of pocket is $25,000.
So we're still saving 35,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo what Buzzy said, we do look back historically to try and ascertain how you've run, but any year can be unique, but always in self-funding, we try and encourage you to look at 3 and 5 year periods of time, because 1 year can be very much an anomaly. And that's really what has to be factored in making those kind of assessments. And I think you've gone about it the right way. From where I sit, not having to pay out those claims, but assessing a lot of risk for a lot of different employers. I'm always a big proponent of saving to fix the known cost when you can. And I think this is one of those opportunities that doesn't put you at a lot of risk by comparison, but does give you a known fixed cost.
For the last 3 years, we hadn't had 3 cases to go over that. Is that what you're saying?
No, well,
Each year,
each year, we've had
2.
2. Then the year before, we had 3. And I don't recall without going through my paperwork prior to that.
Okay.
But it could change it up,
Yeah.
You never know what somebody's medical situation will become.
Previous years don't really dictate, kind of like playing the black or the red. If it hits red 5 straight times, that doesn't mean it's gonna be black the next time.
You ride the streets, yeah.
Each roll is a separate one, so.
That's exactly right.
I like to make one comment, and again, Benji is a wonderful partner to the city of Henderson. We have an excellent working relationship, and untold, we've seen the cycles of our health insurance costs, and many times Benji helps us through those cycles. And again, this year, he's helped us get through this process. And thank you, Benji, for everything, and to your staff.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Enjoy our working relationship. They're a great city, great group of people.
Thank you, sir. Any final questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye. Thank you, Benji. Appreciate your help always.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm sure we'll see each other again soon.
Next, we have a municipal order awarding purchases of asphalt paving and related street materials. And I think Dylan, he is on the line with us, so.
Municipal Order 34-22, municipal order awarding bid for asphalt paving and related street maintenance services to E&B Paving LLC of Chandler, Indiana.
Dylan, I think this came in at as everything else seems to be doing right now, at a significant percentage increase from the previous year. Is that right?
Yes, sir. It looks like for kind of what the item we use the most, street paving, surface paving came in about a 30% higher rate than what we had in the past. So, and with what we've seen on some of the other things and what we'll see with concrete here in a minute, that's that's kind of what we've been seeing, unfortunately.
We'll go ahead and see if there's a motion to approve, and then we'll get into questions and comments. So, is there a motion to approve, please? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Now, any questions or comments for Dylan or Buzzy? They've both been working on this.
One thing I would ask Dylan is if you can discuss with them the conversations that Brian Williams and the two of us had on Monday of how to address our current paving list versus our future upcoming budget year paving list. If you can just talk briefly.
Yeah, I'll do that real quick. So as y'all can imagine, when we put together the paving list last fiscal year, we were doing it based on previous pricing. And I can't remember, I think our previous paving contract, I think I'm not mistaken when I say this, when it was originally bid, it was bid with the option for 2 one-year extensions. And I believe we extended it for 1 year. So I believe the pricing we had was actually a couple years old. And so when we reached out to renew it for this coming year, they just couldn't do it based on the economy. And so when we put together the bid or the paving list for last year, I always add, probably 10 to 15% to my estimates for the unknowns. And I think I've mentioned this to you all before, but that takes care of, any sort of patching or any sort of things we run into. There's always these 50% matches that come up or water utility projects we need to pave behind. And so that kind of helps us avoid doing any sort of mid-year budget amendments. We're able to say, hey, we've got a little bit extra money. Can we use it here? And so I also do it for reasons like this. Unfortunately, I think the 10 to 15% we included was not sufficient to account for the 30% increase that we experienced. And so in talking with Buzzy and Brian, what we had kind of decided talking earlier this week was that I redid all the estimates for all the streets that were on the current year paving list that are to be done by June 30th. And it doesn't look like we will have enough money to do all of that. In addition, because we've spent, I think around $30,000 on Old Corden Road, if you all remember, the county had actually, before we annexed it, they had received a grant to do the rubber modified asphalt. And so we had agreed to go ahead and cover what was their costs because they had been approved for the grant, but it was then being annexed into the city. So that kind of reduced our available funding. And so what we decided was one of the streets, Barrett Boulevard, which runs from close up to 60, the part closest to 60 is concrete, but where it transitions to asphalt from there to 41, we had decided that was about the amount we needed to cover the rest of the streets on this year's paving list. So we would just move that street to the next paving list and make sure that was one of the first ones completed. And then, so that would allow us to finish everything else on the list and then just bump that one to next year, if that makes sense.
Then do we have some additional paving on Country View that maybe wasn't anticipated real early?
Yeah, I don't think
drainage.
I think in this fiscal year we didn't have any. I think at the end of last fiscal year we did have some, and we definitely will have some in next fiscal year. But Brian or Buzzy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any fell in this fiscal year. I know we did some last, and we're actually planning to budget for some in next fiscal year. But I think Old Corden was the only unforeseen, in addition to maybe a couple other minor little alley pavings and things of that nature.
Yeah, I was talking on that Country View. I know we're doing another project, another section, and on the drainage, and I think it has paving with it for
yes,
next
sir.
year. Yeah.
The only other comment I have in budget discussions for the upcoming year, talked to Robert this week. We will probably increase our paving allocation for this upcoming year due to two things. Is one, to try to keep up with the cost of asphalt, and number two is the added Country View streets that were not on our list for this year, and we didn't know next year, but we now have some idea of that. So.
Just to piggyback off of the mayor's question, Seems like that project is gonna wrap up toward the end of May. So do we have to wait until next fiscal year to go ahead and pave that section of Sutton? Or can we get it on before next fiscal year starts?
The only thing, Dylan, getting people scheduled to come in and work, since we're just now awarding the contract, now, we're gonna have to get on their schedule, so we don't know when we can get on their schedule to come in. The other thing, Tom, do you have anything you may wanna add under the Culverstein contract?
They're wrapping up, so I think it'll be done by the end of April.
By the end of April.
But the one other thing we have to be concerned with before we pave the streets, and Dylan, I don't know how we handle the patching where the street cuts are. How is that handled?
I've actually, it's ironic you asked, I've actually been emailing, Tom may be able to speak to it, but I've been emailing back and forth with Warner actually today, Tom, and I was asking him what their plans were on that, because they sent us a submittal, and I had asked for the, what the plans were on that. But yeah, Buzzy's right. One concern is, if the rock isn't compacted properly or not allowed proper time to settle, you could end up seeing basically dips in the road where those are. So I'll let Tom, he probably knows more about it.
Yeah, I think what we had set up on that, Buzzy, was we were bringing base up to the level of the existing surface, figuring that we would not mill anything off because the rest of the pavement out there is not very thick, so there's not much to mill. We were just gonna overlay everything and mill around driveways. But I think it would be a good idea to let that set for a while, after it settles, so we don't have speed bumps.
The Culverstein does the patching.
Yes, up to the existing surface.
So, Commissioner Staton, that should resolve any questions by citizens of having to deal with loose rock.
So I'm wondering, and it may be a little unorthodox for what we usually do, but I know when we anticipate an outage, we put stuff on people's doors, let them know there's gonna be an outage. I'm wondering if since it's only like 15 houses that are affected, if we could get some kind of communication out to them, just to let them know what the plan is and what the timing is on when the road is. And that way they'll know why their road has not been paved for 2 months, because there's actually a plan in place and we're letting it settle before we pave it.
I think there's technology out there, and I think you're aware of what we do on water outages, so.
Thank you. I think it might be a nice move on our part.
Thank you, Tom. Any final questions for Tom or Dylan?
The only other thing, I'd like to thank the police department for helping with safety concerns during the country review project, and needless to say, dealing with some people out there during construction was pretty wrenching safety-wise. So thank you, Chief, for addressing that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. Same deal, subject concrete.
Municipal order number 35-22, municipal order awarding bid for cement concrete for city projects to Irving Materials Incorporated of Henderson, Kentucky.
Before I ask for a motion, I do want to mention that although we put out notices for bids, we only got one bid on this. And that's a little bit unusual, but the concrete places are behind, as I understand. Is that what you understand, Buzzy?
Well,
behind and
the cost of materials has increased, transportation to haul raw materials has increased, and I will say the economy in Henderson right now is so busy, the availability of getting concrete is, we have to schedule it about 2 weeks out. So if you see projects just sitting, not being done, it's because we can't get concrete. Now, I will also say we have talked with finance what to do in the event that the sole bidder cannot service the city and their projects, we have an approach we will have to take with the other vendor that did not bid it. So it is what it is.
Okay, so with that information, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions for Dylan or Buzzy? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Val?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Next, we have change order. It says 1, but I think it's 3B. On the purchase of manufactured home.
Municipal order number 36-22, municipal order approving change order number 1 to the demolition and reconstruction bid award for 452 South Adams Street between the city of Henderson and Adams Construction in the amount of $19,654.
Okay, Buzzy, before we move forward, I'm gonna tell us what's going on with this.
Okay, both Steve and Tammy were not available to be here today, but if you remember, this project was the one where we had to pay to demo the existing structure that was on the property. And once that was removed and the contractor and codes went out and looked at the grade of the lot itself, things were unforeseen at the time of bid, and just to make a long story short, the back of the lot was much steeper than they anticipated, so the contractors said in order to get it at the proper height, we're gonna have to add 9 courses of block to get it up to grade. So, yeah, so you take 9 courses times 8 inches, that's quite a bit. So then, if you come back to the front of the house, the second part of this change order has to do with a handicap ramp. So, all said and done, had we paid an architect and an engineer to actually go out and design this, it would have probably been picked up. But as y'all are aware, we sort of got a cookie cutter design that applies to most of the houses we build, and as a result, this is a change order that was unforeseen.
Is there a motion to approve the change?
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Val?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
I think I can say too, Buzzy, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is enough money in the grant to cover everything still.
You're correct.
Okay. City manager's report, Juneteenth celebration grant request.
Pursuant to our last meeting, we heard a presentation by various groups in the celebration event being planned. During that presentation, they requested the city to contribute $2,500 toward that celebration. They did likewise with the county, in which I think the county this morning approved it at their regular meeting. So I'm asking for direction if this commission wants to proceed forward with that contribution.
Is there a motion to approve the $2,500 grant for Juneteenth celebration?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Val?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
City attorney, is that all?
I think there was something else on there.
Yeah, Tom, do you mind to come up and talk through where we are today with our farm?
Sure. In your packets, there's a copy of the plat for the remainder of the British farm. You remember that we purchased 298.5 acres, and 200 acres of that is leased to Pratt. I'll give you a second, but I'll find it.
Where is that?
Be in that
Should be at
one.
the very end.
No, it'll be in the municipal order in,
Consent agenda, yeah.
it's in that one,
52.
This one.
so page,
Yeah.
yeah. And then scroll forward about, or click right there and choose page 52.
Don't you love technology?
Got it, go back. This right here?
Yes.
What that shows is, down in the lower left corner of that plat, two small lots that are gonna be used for water tanks. One of those is for a fire suppression tank that we're going to build and then feed to Pratt, and they're gonna pay for over time. That was the subject of that amendment this morning, or earlier in the meeting. The other small lot is for our elevated tank, which will remain our property. And then the plat shows there's a big creek that crosses that northern part of the farm. We are proposing to take about 11.5 acres north of that creek, which would be kind of in behind Eddie's Pizza at the intersection of Old Corridor Road, Highway 60. Make that a separate lot because it does kind of, because of the creek, it does kind of divide itself from the rest of the farm. And then the remainder of that, which is, I think, about 85 acres, is going to remain as a potential industrial development site. That's kind of where we are. That plat is going to the planning commission at their May meeting, 3rd, I believe.
And that lot, that 10 or 11 acres behind Eddie's Pizza there, that could be a commercial opportunity as well. It's a pretty nice lot. It could be a nice.
Flat, presents itself well on the street. We've talked about the potential of the city maybe even building a cul-de-sac back in there and dividing off some smaller lots, or could find somebody that needs the full 11.5 acres.
Yeah,
Just
got some opportunities, doesn't it?
presents itself well. The other part of the farm, the 85 acres that's left, is pretty hilly, and only part of that's under cultivation now. I think we are advertising a contract to the farm part of it, right? The part that's farmable. The remainder was
60 acres is farm, or is tillable.
till, the rest of it, I think, was, just in hay and grass, and they had cattle running on it, which was not gonna do, but probably just gonna leave it land fallow and spray it for weeds. I imagine, right, those.
Well, we were gonna spray weeds, but I think if we can get it farmed,
I have some
It's
extra
gonna
hay off
save us
of it
a
or
little
whatever.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of where we are on the remainder. Don't really have any other, this time, or anything to report about anybody being interested in it or anything like that.
This water tower, that's going on, is it going on 1B, the overhead water tower?
The elevated tank goes on 1B.
1B.
1C is in the ground mounted tank.
That's gonna be by far the biggest water tank
It's
around.
gonna be the tallest that we've got in our system. It's gonna be taller than the Tyson tank.
Yeah.
The Atkinson Park tank is bigger capacity, but it's hard to look at the Atkinson Park tank and get an idea how big it is.
Yeah.
but doesn't it help, it will help the river corridor area with increased pressure?
Yes, the reason we're building this tank is to up the pressure in that entire pressure zone, which right now runs from about, Fair Street to the south, out towards 60. We're moving the boundary of that pressure zone all the way up to Sand Lane, and should be able to provide pressures between 70 and 100 pounds out there now. Where in areas of the riverboard, we have some issues with even getting up to 40 pounds right now, so it's gonna help everybody out in that area.
Good, that's good. Questions for Tom? or- Thank you, sir, appreciate it. City Attorney's Report, Entertainment
Yeah.
District.
This is just a follow-up to our last meeting where Commissioner Thomas had requested that he believed that we would need police presence in the area during the, event that would, be under the Entertainment Destination, Center. We talked with Chief McKinney, and he agreed, and he believes 2 officers would be appropriate during that time, so we added in their salaries as well as portable radios, so that raised, the total expense to, almost, $37,000. So the, city manager and I met today, and what we're doing now is preparing the agreement that we will enter into, with all of the, providers, in the Entertainment Destination Center, and we would like to have a meeting with them, go over the agreement, and make sure that they are still on board and understand what their responsibilities are going to be before we bring forward an ordinance, now that we have more clarification. And, because we would hate to bring forth an ordinance and then when we give them, when we give them the agreement, they say, not us. And so, because we're going to be very dependent upon their partnership to make this work. So that is our next step.
So is this the total net cost anticipated of the city?
Yes.
Like after we recoup some costs for bracelets and cups and stuff, it's still?
Well, this is that, we hope to recover some of this cost. And one of the things that Buzzy said today is I need to sit down with Robert and try to see what we think we're going to need to charge. We're not going to sell the wristbands, but we will sell the cups. And so, we'll come up with a number for that to try to recover some of it.
I'm just throwing this out there, but, after learning this, do you need another consensus to see that we're still okay to move forward before we go through all this work?
We can, I mean, if you want to do that.
I don't
One of
know.
our biggest questions that we have is we just want to make sure that the individual businesses who have been encouraging us to do this, once they see the actual agreement and what's going to be dependent, what their responsibility is going to be is that they still want to do that. Because if they don't, then we really can't bring forward an ordinance unless we have an alternative plan as to how to man those entrance points.
Well, without getting too wordy, if the anticipated costs are nearly $40,000 to make this happen, I won't be voting in favor of this. So,
it will be, so we will take another, opinion poll here, on a cost of, $35,000 to $40,000 for the city to be the primary sponsor, I guess you would say,
We'll be the license holder.
and the license holder for the entertainment, center.
One of the things that we would, Commissioner Staton, need to do is, as Buzzy encouraged you, sit down with Robert and figure out how much we would need to charge for cups in order to recover part of these costs.
I think for me, it's gonna be heavily dependent on how much cost we can recoup. Because once we get over the $20,000 mark, it makes me very uncomfortable to say yes to something like this. I'm just not, I'm not gonna be willing to put over $20,000 of taxpayer money to make this happen on a yearly basis.
Real quick, Dawn, under the portable radios,
Yes.
that should be 12 times 208. Need to adjust that number. And Commissioner Staton, to answer your question, I think they did a good job projecting out in future years. So it appears to me the initial upfront cost, like buying the radios, maybe the banner flags and recycle containers are like one-time cost. And as you look into future years, that cost actually sort of comes back down. But
I mean,
it still is what
I
it
wanna
is.
try to be amenable and try to make this happen if we have downtown businesses that want it to happen. But that just seems like a high cost, from the city that we would bear on a year in, year out basis. And it's just kind of alarming to me that that's the amount that we've landed at.
there any
Well, we can-
particular cost that you think we should?
Well, here's, what I think you should do is get all of us together, business owners that are in favor of it or not in favor of it, or it's gonna affect, and let us hash out a plan.
Yeah.
Let us figure out what costs we can incur if they wanna go forward with this, you know, 'cause
And
so
that's
we have to
what,
supply manpower, it's gonna be in staff restaurants as it is, so trying to get extra manpower to work the gate, you know, that's not gonna fly.
And looking at this plan, and I think, Commissioner Thomas makes a really good point, but looking at this plan as far as our manpower on it too, we're estimating 5 hours a week, 6 months a year, 20 hours for the event, 10 events. You know, if we pare down how many events we're doing, I think we can significantly reduce that cost. So, and I think that maybe addresses some of Commissioner Thomas's concern too. You know, maybe we plan just 5 events for the first year or something like that, see how it goes.
That would go a whole lot better, because if you start having, say, Fridays, every Friday you're doing an event
Yeah,
that draws 200 people,
right.
we're not gonna wanna man a gate for 200 people, because it's not gonna affect us at all.
Yeah.
And if we have to do it every week, it's gonna be a burden.
Well, let's let
And then if 1 or 2 restaurants opt out, all of a sudden,
Well, and I
we
wanna,
can't find someone to work a gate, where does that leave us?
and I wanna qualify what I said too. I would like to make this happen if there are businesses that wanna make it happen, and I know that I've heard from people in the community that it would be nice if we had something like a Friday after 5 or whatever you wanna call it. And so I just wanna make sure that we're looking at it from a cost standpoint. I think $40,000 a year is a little much.
Okay, let's tell you what, let's do, let's let the group get together and meet and see if we might want to look at reducing the number of events, at least to start with. You know, if it's so successful that we have to, if we have to, so successful, we have to add events, you know, next year or any,
Yeah,
if
that
you
event,
could balance things out,
any
but.
objections from us.
Yeah.
I think it might make the events more popular if they're less frequent
I think it's a very good idea,
Mhm.
really good idea.
And you don't want it so frequent that outsiders think they can just bring liquor on the streets, you know, walk down the street with their own, you know, bring their own bottles or whatever in the pockets. Don't want to get out of hand.
Yeah.
So you meet, and you all will meet and then bring it back. We'll take a look at it. You want to mention the new suggestive name for it or not?
I'm just saying,
Wait, okay.
I think she's working on a logo to go with
Okay.
it, so I think do both.
Tourism is looking at some
Abby's
possibilities.
working on it.
Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, like I said, anybody, y'all been up 4th Street Live? Isn't that just one strip?
2 block radius.
Yeah, I like, that's what you're talking about, making it cheaper for the city. What if we just had just that one strip right there, you know, going down Second right there to the river, just in there? How would that offset the price?
But it would, but you don't want to alienate, because then it looks like you're benefiting me.
Well, we ain't benefiting you, we ain't benefiting you.
Alcoholics.
That ain't, even if you noticed years ago, when I spoke about the entertainment district, you wasn't on the commission, you wasn't thinking about right. I was just thinking about getting a street for entertainment, so people would have freedom to walk around, that drink beer, that could come outside and not have to worry about police arresting them and all of that, you know. This is our free district, as long as you conduct yourself as an adult, you can do that. I think when we started stretching it way out, then we had to have more people man different things that took the price up. To me, I think we ought to start small and do it one summer, just from straight down there, and see how it takes effect, and then see where we go. Because when we open up pretty big district there, down there by the library, and we got to start manning, and we started adding more money to this. I'm like, Brad, we get up to about $40,000-$50,000 a year. I don't know.
It's a big
Yeah,
risk. I wanna see it move forward. I'm not against it.
Yeah,
I just, would like to see it move forward in a more cost-effective way
Yeah.
than $40,000.
I agree with that. 'Cause you know me, what I was thinking about, you know, I know you'd have to have police at one street up here and one at the other end, like they do at 4th Street Live. I was just wondering, how could we do it and affordable? And so I'd be on board if we can just do it, just try it maybe this summer. Just one, and see how it works
Okay.
in one place.
We'll let the committee get back together and talk about it and bring it back to us for possible, opportunities for coming year. Okay. Commissioners report. Commissioner Thomas, anything tonight?
Just thank all the Lions Club volunteers for, looked like a great traffic.
Oh, it was
fantastic, yeah.
great. Yeah, it was great. It gives you some, it may give, I thought about this project, this downtown entertainment project, if the big crowds that we had at the Tri-Fest, would that carry over any, is there anything to, two different things, but
Yeah, too many kids.
draw
Too many
people,
kids there.
would it draw more people than what I thought it would draw?
I don't think you wanna mix those, when you have that many kids
No, I don't
running
mean
around like
mixing,
that.
no, I'm not talking about, I'm just saying that the crowds were so big for that.
Oh,
Is that an indicator that the crowds would be big for this? That's what I'm saying.
People been in the house for 2 years.
And it's based on your entertainment,
Yeah.
What your entertainment's
Yeah.
gonna be.
Commissioner Vowles, anything?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Yeah, I just want to thank the commission for the money for Juneteenth, and hopefully we can have a big celebration, something, and bring a lot of people down, and, make Henderson an enjoyable place and an entertainment place, so, thank you guys.
Sure. Commissioner Staton, anything?
Yeah, I've been, talking with our city manager about something. We've been talking about infrequent business streams that, for professional services and the like that service the city, and how it can be pretty burdensome to come up with all the information that's required to quote some of the business. Specifically like with property and casualty insurance and auditing services, health insurance, things like that. And we also talked about the other side of the coin, and that is when we have somebody who does a good job and services the city that we get comfortable with and do good business with, we end up not quoting that business out for many, many, many years. And so I'd like for Buzzy and our finance team to take a look at what we're doing to see if we can't move toward an incremental bidding situation with things like that. For example, if we went to an every 4-year type situation with our property and casualty insurance and auditing services, things like that, where we can proceduralize it so that we can make sure that while we're building continuity and comfort with some of the people who service the city in this respect, that we're also making sure that we're still getting a competitive price for the services that are being offered the city. And so I just wanted to bring that up to see if maybe we can have a plan brought back to the commission to take a look and see if we can prescribe some kind of interval to where we can look at some of those infrequent services that we have on our books.
We can. Anything else? Yep. Okay. I think we have a need for a motion to go into executive session.
I move the commission go into executive session for the purpose of discussion of pending litigation against the city of Henderson and pending litigation on behalf of the city of Henderson pursuant to KRS 61.10, paragraph 1, subsection C.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
We'll be going into executive for some private discussion, so thank you again for being here, and keep us posted on all the good things you're doing. Thank you.
You thought you were getting out of it. You thought you were getting out of it.
We're not coming back, so you can turn it off. Well, I mean, you guys will have to come back, but not live.